And since it's 3 o'clock, which means it's coffee time, my time, somebody on the West Coast will be having lunch, somebody in Europe or Asia will probably be having supper over there. So just sit back, enjoy the session that I'll be talking about. I'll do a little bit of slides. I'll do a little bit of a lot of demos over there, and I'll do an introduction to Power Virtual Agents. So let's go ahead and get started. First, I want to give a thank to all our generous sponsors, without which or without whom none of this could be done. So a big round of applause for all our sponsors. Thank you so much. Also, are you getting ready for a raffle? Because there will be some giveaways that will be done all online. So definitely stick around. If you see the URL on the bottom left over there, go ahead and take a quick screenshot of that. That way you can actually go ahead and earn that raffle ticket over there as well. We live in this very interesting and unprecedented times, which is why if you're interested, they are doing a GoFundMe for a charity right now. And here is the link to that, International Medical Corps. So take a screenshot of that and we will move forward. Okay, so a little bit about me. My name is Daniel Christian, you all know that. And that's my Twitter handle over there. And I'm also big on YouTube over here. So I do a lot of my blogging. And if you go to YouTube and you just search by Daniel Christian Power Apps, you'll see my channel over there. And I think I've got like over 100 different sessions on the entire Power Platform, because that's what I cover. And then if any of you are interested for online webinars, I actually have 2 of these coming up. One is in June, one is in June 25th, and I'll be covering Power Apps purely from an app design standpoint, and then Power Automate from a Power Button standpoint. So if you look at the URL on the bottom left, that's where you can go ahead and sign up for that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Today we're going to do an introduction of Power Virtual Agents. So what is Power Virtual Agents? Well, Power Virtual Agents is the new tool or new member to empower the people to drive and give more business values to create natural conversational AI. And that's the key thing I want you to focus on, because I really like the way the Wired magazine actually said this statement. It says that AI is coming to your most mind-numbing office tasks. So I'll actually dwell on that a little bit more as to what are these mind-numbing office tasks over there, but I want you to kind of capture that information over there. So let me go back and talk a little bit more about Power Virtual Agents, or you'll hear me say PVA a lot. It was introduced in Ignite 2019, so that's not too long ago, and it's built on the top of the Power Platform and Azure Bot Service, and I'll show you more on that. One of the things I like about how they introduced the chatbot service is the whole concept that bots are really all said and done hard to create and expensive to maintain. At least that's how the system was in the past, all right? There was also a lot of friction between the SMEs or the subject matter experts and those who were developers or the scientists who were actually building this AI, artificial intelligence and machine learning technology over there. And then all said and done, it wasn't very personalized. So that's where the QVA comes in over here, because it's able to actually make that more industrialized over there and more user-friendly as well, purely from a customer standpoint, from the subject matter experts, and for the IT admins. It takes care of all 3 of these people and makes this entire PVA process easy for the entire broad spectrum over there. So in a nutshell, I want to just hit on these big points over here. So what is the Power Virtual Agents and what's Microsoft's vision for PVA over here? And it summarizes into these 4 different categories over there. And I really like the concept of democratized AI and the continuously improvement of it. And it falls into your hands, actually, because you're the ones who can now go ahead and build this chatbot system. And I'll show you some demos on that. And you can go ahead and take that to the next level. Now, I really like this example of the True Green they used, of how they have leveraged the chatbot system. There was a good demo which was done about how this company has leveraged that back in Ignite over there. So if you're interested, go ahead and look at that as an example over there. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. It says, Daniel, this is all great, but why are you interested in PVA? Why are you spending so much of your time working on this PVA over here? Now, if any of you are thinking that, that's a great question, because to do that, I got to take you first a few years back, right? So the first chatbot I ever made was actually in July of 2017. And I'll prove that to you, right? Because then I'll also say that that was the Q&A maker. The Q&A maker was the one I built 3 years ago, July 2017, almost 3 years ago. Then in July 2018, I went ahead and even started working with Lewis over there. So I've got a good fundamental background on how these low-code chatbot systems work over there. And I'll admit it's a little clunky. And if you want proof, these were actually the 2 YouTube videos, and I intentionally show that. The first one I built was Q&A Maker, and you see July 14th. This is when Q&A Maker didn't even have a connector, and connectors are how you take other tools and you connect it to the Power Platform over there. There wasn't even a connector available for QA, so I actually made a video to talk about building a custom connector. So that was back in 2017. You fast forward 1 year, and you'll see how I've actually shown how to go ahead and use the Q&A Maker and leverage SharePoint and the combination of Power Apps and Power Automate, which at that time was Flow, was able to build this entire chatbot system. So as you can see, I've really tested the original Q&A Maker, the Lewis, and then especially with Q&A Maker, it was a little clunky. It was clunky as in it was difficult to do the training. It was not very intuitive. A lot of work was involved over there. All right, so I kind of wanted to show that example over there. Now, next, when it was announced, like originally there were the 3 members of the Power Platform family. It was Power BI, what I call the big brother, because that was the original first family member that came out. Then came Power Apps and Power Automate. And then finally, PVA, or Power Virtual Agents, came out. And Power Virtual Agents was originally announced in the Ignite of last year. A couple of things about Power Virtual Agents I like is that it introduces the entire, or it leverages the entire bot framework over there. And if you see somewhere hidden over there, it's the cognitive services, but it also uses the Q&A Maker, and it also uses the Lewis over there. So this slide actually really helps. Is what it explains that even though you see it as a the system over here at the back end, it is leveraging all of this cognitive services APIs over here. So I really like the way that they've taken the time to explain this analogy, is that when it comes to PVA, or Power Virtual Agents, this is how the pyramid structure is formed, right? So the Azure Cognitive Services over there, it is going ahead and leveraging that entire Cognitive Services API, the slide that I just showed you over there. Then it also is able to go ahead and leverage the entire chatbot service system. The service system also includes Lewis. It also includes Q&A Maker, the one that I just showed you over there. Then on the next one is the original 3 members of the Power Platform family, which is the Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, and all these 300 and some connectors that are available. And sitting right on top of that is Power Virtual Agent. PPA actually sits and leverages the entire fundamental, pyramid of the entire Power Platform over there, including all these connectors. It sits on top of it. So it's really intuitive and really user-friendly because it leverages the entire Power Platform thing over there. All right, so now that I've given you a kind of an overview of how this entire process works over here, I want to actually start working on doing our demos. I'm going to actually start working on a little bit of demo, at least show you how the fundamental is to go and build it. Then I'll also, because of this is only a 15-minute session and I want to leave some time for Q&A, I'll also go ahead and show you some pre-finished works over there. So in this example I wanted to show was there's this company, okay? The company is called Cheers Incorporated, right? It's a fictitious company. Now what this company does, it's a very different things, because right now in unprecedented times that we live in, there's a lot of needs, right? So there's 2 sets of people that you can provide these needs. One is a set of people that actually needs a service. And then there's another set of people that can offer this service. And they're all trying to hit Cheers Incorporated, because Cheers Incorporated is a nonprofit organization which can offer these services to you. And they need both the type of people to contact them, the people who need the service and the people who can offer the service. And they're constantly going ahead and contacting, which is why there's a big flow of communications going on between the people who need it and the people who will offer it. And in that case, the support people for Cheers Incorporated are really getting hammered with contact informations over there. Now, this is where we can go ahead and leverage Power Virtual Agents. The Power Virtual Agents can actually be the intermediate predecessor to take all that information in. It can do simple things like go ahead and answer those repetitive and mundane questions that people who need the service may have, or people who can offer the service also have. And then after all those questions are done, the chatbot is smart enough to even go ahead and route them to a different location, which in this case is Microsoft Forms. Now, I want to point out a very important thing. This chatbot system did not replace that administrative person over there. And in fact, it took off a lot of load off that administrative person over there, so that now that person can actually focus on some of the bigger problems or bigger challenges where a human touch is more highly required over there. But at the same time, that admin can go ahead and also go and talk and look at all the forms where all the questions have been answered or questions have been asked. and then go ahead and move faster over there. So that's the example that I wanted to show, is that how we can go ahead and build this process. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip off from here, and we're going to start building some apps. I mean, some PVAs over here. So I'm going to come in to just make sure I'm in the right place. Okay, so here what we have is my PVA. I've gone ahead and logged into my Power Virtual Agents. That's Power Virtual Agents General. And there's a few things that you can look around over here. Initially, you can see that there's already the test bot, which is available. I can go ahead and click on that. There's topics. Topics is a place where you go ahead and actually start the topic for the chatbot. There's entities. Entities is where you can go ahead and store information. These entities are not the same entities that you see in your Power Apps entities over there, but the whole concept of using the entity is the exact same. That's how this works over here. All right. Analytics is a great information, and I'll try to touch on that at the end. And then there's all these other functionalities for channels, where you can, once you build the chatbot, you can go ahead and put it into all these places over there. All those demos and Facebook connectors and all of these channels to go ahead and leverage your place. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and start a new topic, and I'm going to call that topic as assistance. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. It says this is the chatbot to both provide and request assistance. Now, here is the trigger phases. Now, as you can see right over here, it actually says that you need a minimum of, I mean, it's recommended that you have a minimum of 5 to 10 diverse phrases. So minimum of 5. The reason you want to have those phrases is kind of get the chatbot understand what this topic is all about, what is that you're coming over here, and trigger that conversation. I'm going to, throughout this session over here, I'm going to share a lot of tidbits with you all, some of the ideas that I've actually learned as I've been one of the early adopters of this, and I'll share that over with you. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to start typing in my first trigger. And I'm going to say the first trigger I have is I can provide some free labor. And now once you've typed it in, you don't even have to hit add. You can just hit enter from your keyboard. But there's another thing you can do. You can actually do a lot of Control-C for copy, Control-V for paste, and hit enter. And it's perfect in a situation like this is because you might already have a OneNote or an Excel spreadsheet or one document where you've got all these questions already written over here. And now you don't want to go through and keep copying and pasting or typing in one at a time. You can actually just highlight, Control-C, paste, Control-V, and hit add. And you can actually go that fast. So these are a couple of things which people have not been aware of. So I'm actually kind of helping you and just giving you some tidbits over here. All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and at least do that in minimum 5. So I'm going to go ahead and put all of these in and just go quickly. So with that one over here, basically, if you noticed in the triggers, I'm putting in enough triggers to kick off both as somebody who needs assistance and then also somebody who can provide assistance. So that's basically what I'm doing. All right, so I've gone ahead and added enough triggers over here. If you realize it's also keeping a count, so I've gone over the minimum requirement of 5, and I've got enough over here. So I'm going to now go ahead and save the topic. Okay, so once you do a save the topic, it is going ahead and saying saving a topic. Topic has been successfully saved. I'm going to go ahead and do the authoring of the canvas. So when I start on the authoring of the canvas, it first comes up to this place, which is basically like building almost a workflow type of a process. And what happens in the workflow is it immediately picks up the triggers that you have. These are the triggers that are going to start and engage the bot system over there. All right. So the first thing I'm going to say is, type in over here is that thank you for. I'm going to say something like, thanks for stopping by, and we hope to help you as much as possible. So I've got a message already put in over here. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And now I'm going to actually put in a ask a question. So the question is going to be, and here's something beautiful that I love over here. In the question that I'm asking, it already does 2 things. It goes ahead and creates I don't know why I did that. Let me go ahead and just, In the question, it already creates a variable because that's where the variable is going to be saved. And then watch what happens. I'm going to put this as a multiple choice options over here. So you got to go ahead and select, but you can see that there's different options available. I'm going to put this as a multiple choice option system. And my question is, you know, do you need or are you willing to offer assistance? All right, so that's going to be my question. And I'm going to now come over here and I'm going to change that to assistance type, and I'll put the var over there. So I know the variable name, just a good practice. And watch this, when I start putting in the option over here, it says need assistance. Then when I hit that, it automatically goes ahead and breaks that down over there. It says provide assistance. Notice it is that intuitive that I went ahead and was able to go ahead and put that in, and it automatically it takes care of all this condition, whether it's going to be providing the assistance or it's going to be giving the assistance. It automatically and very intuitively does things like that. So again, now I know that, okay, this section over here is something for providing the assistance, which means I can go ahead and do all these other subcategories over here, all right? And then from here, I can go ahead and say add another message, and then thanks, here are some more information I need. And then I can go ahead and move on over there. Here's another tidbit I'm going to throw out over here. There's been a confusion as to how I can combine the two, and what people have actually done is that they've clicked on this add node, and then they go ahead and actually hit and create another message. Here's what people have been, what you don't need to do is when you click on that plus over here, and I'll go ahead and zoom in so you can see, when you click on that plus over here, you don't have to go ahead and add another action. You can actually just take that and go ahead and directly connect that. There is no clear documentation for this over here. There's actually no video. I was the first one to even accidentally learn that. And so I went ahead and actually just posted a video on this today. So if you follow my Twitter handle, or if you go ahead and sign up for my YouTube, you will actually see me just post this one over here. But this is just a very simple and easy way to get started. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show you a fully finished version of this. So here is the same type, and I've already done this. So click on need some assistance. So when I come to need some assistance over here, it's going ahead and it's loading the topic. And as you can see, I've put in 10 phrases already, and they're very similar to what I've already done, shown. And I did the exact same process, copied and pasted, copied and pasted. So now let's go take a look at the authoring canvas. Now, while the authoring canvas is loading, I want to kind of talk briefly about what is the difference over here, because I want to show you a couple of varieties. And this one is what I call as a static chatbot system. Why is it static? The static is because all the questions and answers and the response and everything is all text already added over here. That's what makes it static, which means anytime now you want to go ahead and improve it, modify it, update it, you got to come over here and you got to manually change all of that. That's why it's static, because once it's built, that's the way it's going to be. And then if you want to change it, you got to come back and change it over here. So this is an example of a static one, which is still fantastic. You can go ahead and build this in 15-20 minutes as long as you've got your logic done over here. And let's walk through it. So again, trigger phrases is all the same phrase over here. I'm able to come in and basically see the phrase that I've put in, all this information, came up with a message, hey, we are glad you stopped by. And then remember how example I showed? I said that, okay, do you need help or are you willing to volunteer? And I said, I need help. And now that breaks it into two separate categories. Now, if I am going to go ahead and need help, then I say, hey, I'm going to do my best. So what happens, the next set of questions come up is, what kind of help do you need? Do you need any financial assistance? You just need someone to do your household chores. Do you need a babysitter? Do you need in technology? And then based on that, I've broken it down into some other subconditions over here. And then what I did was, just like I showed in the slide deck, is I've gone ahead and built a form. So anytime if somebody needed just a household chores, a message comes up. It says that, hey, we have a list of companies which will provide free household cleaning service. Fill out this form and one of us will contact you in 48 hours. Now on the technology side, I've gone ahead and put in some more sub questions over here saying that, hey, what kind of technology assistance do you need? Do you need training? Do you need hardware? Do you need internet access? Do you need software? So I've kind of gone ahead and blended the two things over there. And now if you notice, I've actually taken something very similar and I've gone ahead and done that for a person who's going to provide assistance. And it's right over here. It says, hey, thank you for volunteering. We need a little bit more information of what type of help we can offer. And as you can see, the type of help information is also the same. So somebody can offer financial assistance. Somebody can actually offer some time and energy to do the household chores. And then the flow is all pretty much the same over here. And as you can see, it's all static. Text has already been put in over there. Links has already been put in over here. And that's the first type of chatbot system. It's very static. So now that you understand it, let's go and do some testing. And what I do is I go ahead and turn on this track system over here, because the track system, it not only tracks to see where is the flow of the topic, at least in this one over here, but based on the questions that you've asked, it might even be related to another topic that you created. And this flow over here will automatically switch over to that topic as well. So when you're building a chatbot, it's very important that you kind of go ahead and create a new bot altogether. And then in that bot, you can go ahead and build separate topics, because they don't all have to be in one topic. You can break it down into different topics, because the bot is smart enough to switch over to a different topic based on the conversation that's going on. All right. So watch this. I'm actually going to come over here and let's have a general conversation. Let me try to zoom in so you can see what's going on. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say hi there. And what you will notice is that this hi there is actually from a completely separate discussion altogether. So if you notice now in the topic, it actually switched over to a completely separate topic. And the example that I have over here is actually it switched over to an example that I made for the Nashville. So that's why it switched over to the national, that event topic over there. But you kind of understand, right? It's smart enough to know that based on the question that you had, it switched over to that topic over here. So I'm going to say, I need some assistance. Okay. So now, based on that discussion I had, it's going to go and switch over to the other topic that we just showed. See, I just love the way how intuitive it is, and it truly is an AI system, because it jumped now to the topic that I showed you, and now it's also showing that in that topic, it is at that stage. So it's kind of walking me through that. So in the first scenario, I'm going to say, when it's asking me, do you need help or are you willing to volunteer? And I'll actually say, I need help, all right? And I'm going to need help, and the need help, it comes up straight to this point. So it's kind of showing you that at that stage of your chatbot, you are in this stage of the logic. Kind of really makes it intuitive, and it really helps you for not just troubleshooting, but going ahead and tweaking the bot's logic over there. When you see it actually happening live, gives you the flexibility to further planning the tweaking over there. So I'm going to say I need financial assistance. All right. So on the financial assistance is, we sympathize with you and we'll do our best to provide financial assistance. Please go ahead and fill out the form. So I can go ahead and fill out the form, and then the Microsoft Forms opens up. I go ahead and fill in all this information over here. And again, I need help, which means based on that, it goes ahead and fills. So I can fill up all the form. It goes to the administrator, and now the administrator doesn't get involved in all these mundane discussions and chats that we have. All right, so let me make sure I just clicked on the right one here. And I can go ahead and say, need anything else? Actually, I do. So it's going to come back and route back straight up to the top. As you can see, it routed straight back over there. And now it says, you know what, I can actually, I can help volunteer. So I said, well, it's going to ask them, hey, thank you for volunteering, need a little bit of help. I said, I can actually do household chores. So again, they say, again, thank you so much for free volunteering and household chores, fill up the form. And then afterwards, it takes you to the same form, fills it up. And there I can go and says, I'm done. So does it need anything else? Nope, I'm done over here. And then it'll come back and say, did that answer your question? Perfect, I can say yes. And then after that, rate your experience. I'm pretty much done over here. So this is the first example that I wanted to show you, which is kind of a static bot system. The static bot means every activity, every planning, all the text and everything is directly into that chatbot over there. And it's very intuitive. And remember, there's multiple topics, like the announcement or the welcoming was another topic. So if you notice how over here it switched over to that topic, there in the topic it did give me the welcome and everything. Then when I said that I need assistance, it was smart enough to know that, hey, this is a different topic. Let me switch that over there. So it switches that over directly. And that is all thanks to this track between topics functionality over there. So kind of remember to do that, especially when you're testing your bot system over there. So I walked you through a very simple process over there, is building the static bot. Now let's go and switch over to a dynamic bot system, all right? So I'm going to now go and jump over to another one that I have. Now, just to kind of explain what is this dynamic bot system over here, it is actually, go back to, it's not this one, it is the same topic one over here. Now in the dynamic bot one over here, what this does is, the concept of dynamic bots is you fine tune and you work on the logic of your bot, all right? The whole conversations and on the not just the analytics, but the authoring and the canvas design and everything. You build it, and you build it so well that at the end of the day, all you need to change is the content data in the back. Let me give you an example. This is something that I've been actually doing for quite a few conferences that I've attended, and I'll show you a little trick. Let's actually go ahead and jump into, and I'll walk you through walk you through what the bot is doing, and then after that, I'll even show you how the bot works, all right? So I'm coming straight over here, and as you can see, I'll show you the trigger phases. The trigger phases is basically for me as an attendee for a conference, comes in and just asks the bot something. He says, I either want to know something about a session or I want to know something about a speaker. I want to find a topic either related to a session title or related to a speaker, and that's what the bot's going to do. So I'm going to go now, not to the authoring. We'll go back to the authoring so you can see how it slides around. So I'm going to start again with the same discussion. It says, hi there. All right. And in the hi there, it actually came up to the original intro which I showed you. It says, I'm your personal assistant, defines information about the 2020 Office 365 Nashville event, which is what I spoke about like last 2 weeks ago. So I said, great. So I'm going to say, looking for a session. So we'll see what about happens. It's like, hey, it looks like you need some assistance to pick a session, to pick either a session or a speaker. I can help. It says, any session in particular you're interested? And I says, yes, I am looking for governance. And I'm going to type in governance. And now remember, in this thing over here, it goes, it's not, if you look at the logic over here, it's not flowing around and finding something. What it did, it actually went ahead and talked to Power Virtual Agent or PVA. PVA went ahead and kicked off a flow. And what it did is it first took some information from this Power Virtual Agent. It said that this user is actually going ahead and asking for some information on governance. So it took governance, and then PVA went ahead and scanned an entity. And in the entity, I've told specifically that, hey, any title that has to do with governance, find it and send it back to me in this bot over here. So that's what the bot did. All it did was it took the term, so hey, the user is looking for some governance, Power Automate Flow, can you help me? Power Automate Flow took that information, which is governance, it scanned through that entity, and then after that, it found, hey, I actually did find a session. It said, yep, the session is called Power Apps IT Governance, Application Lifecycle Management. It's actually spoken by Ajay, and it went ahead and provided that information over here. So I'm going to say, it's asking me any other question. I'm going to say, actually, yeah, I do. And so it's going to come back and say, pick one. It says, I'll actually search for a speaker. And I'm going to say, there's actually a speaker named April Dunham. She is going to be covering a session over here, pretty much on the same topic. So I'm going to type in the speaker's name. I'm just going to put in April. I didn't put in her last name or full thing. I just said April. And what it did was the exact same thing I just told you. Is it took that in April, kicked off a Power Automate Flow. Power Automate Flow went ahead and scanned through the entity that I have, and it said, oh, I'm looking for any session, and here's the speaker name. Is there a speaker named April? And it went through scanning. I said, oh, yep, I found somebody named April Dunham. And based on that name, it went ahead and picked up all the information. It picked up the session's name. It went ahead and picked up the session type, which is a breakout session, and also gave me the the speaker name, which is April Dunham. So I said, do you have it? Now it says, I have another question. I'm saying, nope, I'm good. And then after that, it says, did that answer your question? It says, yes, it did. And it says, please rate your experience. I said the experience was great. And then after that, it goes ahead and finishes off. So kind of now that you see what's going on, let's go and take a look at how it works in the back end. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and now reset this. And now let's take a look at the logic of this PVA. So the initial, let's go back to the topic. Just go back to the sessions, directly jump straight into it. And what happens in the session, over here, is the trigger phrases. I went and put in 15 different trigger phrases, anything I could think of. Questions regarding the sessions, speakers, all those combinations, just put in speaker coverings, covering session speakers, so on and so forth. Message comes up, simple. I just showed you guys how to do that. And then after that, it goes ahead and pops in two choices. It's, are you looking for a speaker? Are you looking for a session? Remember, that's how I demonstrated to you over here. And then, based on if it is a speaker, it tells me, can you give me the speaker's first or last name? And it picks that name up and it puts in the variable. Now that if you've noticed, this is a lot different than the first example I showed you, because it's not breaking it down to a whole bunch of other comments over there and giving you a lot of information. What it is doing is it's just saying that, okay, I got that information over here. I've saved it in speaker variable. I'm going to go ahead and run that flow right now, which is there's a Power Automate flow over here. I'm going to go ahead and run on it and send that information over there. That's how it works. So I want to pause over here and I'll show you something very important for you to know. If I were to come over here now, because I know that there is a flow for this, I come over here to my Power Automate, I go to my flows. Right here, it tells me that that flow name has got something to do with Power Virtual Agents, probably speaker name. When I'm coming over here, I'm looking at my flows. I don't see that flow. I go to team flows just in case. I don't even see it. So here's a very important thing that you need to do specifically with Power Virtual Agents is that now Power Virtual Agents uses the concept of solutions. Solutions is it encompasses an entire solution. So it could encompass not just flows, but it can go ahead and encompass your entities. It can go ahead and group in your Power Apps. That's the concept it uses over here. So what you need to do is you actually come to solutions. You need to know what solution that is part of. And I know that mine was part of the event session. So I clicked on that. And then now in the event session, it says, oh, I've got these two over here. And it tells me that these are flows. I can go ahead and have other things. I can have entities, I can have apps, so on and so forth, but this is how you find all that information over there. It's part of a solution, all right? Now, the cool thing is, when we were looking for a speaker name, so I can actually click on this one and it takes me directly to this location over there. So if you kind of kept in my track, there was actually a 4-step process we had to take just to get over here. But what the product group did is they first of all, they listened to advice and they went ahead and added that little link right over here. So let me show you that. Now, instead of me going and finding that, if you know if you've gone and looked at your flow, they've given you this little bit, the link over here. So I just click on that link and it directly goes ahead, goes into the flow area over there, finds the solution, goes into the solutions, finds your flow, clicks on it, and directly opens it up. And if you can see, this was the one I just ran 4 minutes ago. So that's pretty sweet how they've gone ahead and built a Power Virtual Agents interface to directly take you into that flow that you have over there. So let's just open this flow up and we'll take a look, because you will see two very important things. The trigger is coming from Power Virtual Agents because that's what triggered the thing. For Power Virtual Agents, we are getting the speaker's name, as I've called it as the speaker received. So that's what happens over there. The end is also information which is returning the data that you get. All right, so kind of keep that in mind. The trigger and the return are both to do with PVAs. So now I go over here in the list records. What it does is it goes ahead and says, I say that in the flow, I want you to go ahead and grab all the list records. And in the list records, I only want you to filter this speaker name. And it can be pretty much any name, which is why I've intentionally put in contains. Remember when I searched for April, I just send the text April through Power Virtual Agent over here in the Power Automate, so that in this list of records, in this list which I have for events sessions, I want you to search for a speaker which has the text, or which text contains April. Now, if you notice over here, this is a filter query, which means it does a server-side search. And that's very important for you to know. Because what happens is it's not going to pull all those hundreds and hundreds of sessions into the Power Virtual Agent over here, into the flow, and then filter it. What it does is it actually does a server-side search directly into the entities over there, finds all the data that it wants, and then just pulls a small quantity of it. That increases performance, and that also makes sure that you don't run into any problems on your flow side over here. And then after that, it's all pretty much same, straightforward. I just temporarily save that to a variable over here. And then I'm going ahead and just appending it, because what if April had more than 2 sessions? So it goes ahead and grabs all of that, and it's constantly appending it, and putting it into this variable over here. And then it goes ahead and basically just sends that back to me. Now, in this condition I've put that in is that if there is nothing that comes in, and there's literally no sessions which is done by somebody named April, then it'll go ahead and send me an empty, something which is empty, and the empty is actually just called as empty. And then over here, if there is actually some information, then it goes and sends that. But it sends me both, because if there is nothing by April, then this will be blank. But if there was something which was blank, nothing returned, then it sends me empty. So based on this information, then if I go back to my Power Logic over here, you can actually see that I've created a little bit of a condition is that if the speaker which is returned is equal to empty, then just say the speaker either has finished the sessions, or maybe that speaker doesn't exist. But if it was not empty, then just go ahead and return all that data that I did. So it's kind of important that you see that this PVA over here, its canvas is actually a lot smaller than compared to that big one that I just showed you before. Because over here now it's very dynamic. All you have is a very simple logic, and then moment I either put in the speaker name or I go ahead and put in the session name, Flow or the Power Automates Flow does all the work over there. All the data is already stored in CDS over here. And therefore now what I've been doing in the future is I just come over here to my CDS entities over here. It's in the way right here. I find for that event sessions, that's my entities. And over here, I basically just come in, and this is what I do. Is all the update to get the latest information is all done at the entity level over here. The flow and its logic is already great. It's very sound. I don't have to do anything. This is where I do all the manipulation of the work over there. So it's kind of very important that you understand the two examples that I gave. I gave you an example of that static one, for which somebody needs help, because all the work's done in the Power Automate over there. And that's important as a first step for you to just get familiar with how those conditions and all those tools and everything work. And then once you're comfortable with it, with building a logic, this is the next level you can go, is build it dynamic, where the logic of the PVA is sound, the authoring is sound. Now, if you're just going to be updating the data, store the data in a backend entity like this over here, and now your information will automatically update. So in the last piece over here, what I want to switch gears is show you a developer sign-up section over there. And the developer basically is not so much as the coding that you do in the backend, but it's what you're trying to accomplish. So let me give you an example. Everything we've done so far over here, whether the person who needed help and came in as person who either needed help or was going to provide help, or somebody who's searching for the sessions over there, they could both be 100% anonymous. They really did, I did not need to know who they were. Agree that in the first case, if I really need to know who they were filling out the Microsoft forms. But say if you want to build a chatbot system for your company, where somebody wants to go ahead and has a quick request for putting in a vacation request or a calendar request. Instead of putting in a request in a form, which then goes to your manager for approval, waits till the manager actually sees it, sends an email back, and so on and so forth. A chatbot system like that can actually do, it can be leveraged for that as well. But you need that one little other thing. You will first have to authenticate into your system, your Office 365 system. And that's what I want to show you, because that authentication piece over here works as a combination of Microsoft Graph and Office 365 users. So I'm going to come over here. I think it's in this one, yeah. So it's the authentication piece, and I'll kind of walk you through, as to how this works. So this what it does is it uses a combination of Power Virtual Agents. Then it uses the built-in tool that it has, which is called authentication. And as you can see, it says make sure you're passing the authentication token variable to the trusted resources, which in our case is Office 365, to go ahead and get that authentication. The beauty is that moment you add that little step over here, and I'll show you, I'm going to add it, but if you come over here, you call an action, and when you call an action, it's loading, there is the option to go ahead and authenticate over there. So that authentication tool is actually already available. So that's basically what I've done over here. I've gone ahead and authenticated. It goes ahead and automatically creates all of this for you, but then you've got to go ahead and create this flow. So let's take a look at this flow. And this may give you a little bit of a headache because there's a little bit of developer work involved, because what you're doing is you're going ahead and calling in Microsoft Graph. So if you see an example over here, in the flow, it's actually making an HTTP request directly to the Microsoft Graph, because right now there is no direct connector available. So it gets that HTTP request, collects all the information about the user, goes ahead and takes the user's information, and then grabs all that user's profile. That way it is also able to get the user's email address, and then I can go ahead and also, based on that, get the manager. This is basically how the authentication works. So I'll quickly kind of give you an example of that. So I come over here, and I say something. It says, I'm just going to say 80 auth, right? Just as a test. So when the 80 auth comes, it immediately kicks off over here. It says to continue, please log in. So I'm going to log in over here. What it does is it goes through this login process over here, and then it goes ahead and gets me a token. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that token. It says, please enter this validation code into the chat window to complete the sign-in. I'm going to copy that, come in over here, paste it, continue. And now, once it validates the token is correct, because that's what it's doing, it's validating it with the Power Automate flow. It says, you are now logged in. Welcome, Daniel. Should I send this email to that email address over there? So now you've authenticated in, you've gone ahead and logged in, and now that chatbot knows exactly who you are. And you're able to go ahead and now get into your system, and it's a very secure way, because remember, we've used a multi-factor authentication system using tokens over here. And you also had to go ahead and authenticate over there. So it was literally multi-factor. You authenticated and you got a token, and then now the chatbot can still continue, because you can now go ahead and leverage all these other connectors, such as Office 365 users, managers, so on and so forth. You can even leverage Microsoft Graph to go and get other information. But that's basically how you can go ahead and do all of that over there. So I want to close in the demo piece over here and kind of walk you through a few little things. Because it has been a while now since some new announcements has come in. So I want to talk about the latest announcements that came in. Was initially it was only English. Well, now they're going to have 15 different languages that will come out in end of this May. In fact, it should already be out and more in June. They're adding more data centers, and this was announced, by the way, just at MBAS, which was kind of last month. So they're adding more data centers. They're doing multi-author support. What that means is that now 2 people can go ahead and update the logic or the canvas over there authoring, and it'll keep versionings and everything over there. And then also not 2 people can do it at the same time, but you can allow 2 people to do it over there, because right now only 1 person can do it. This way you can allow. The next one is pretty important. You use the functionality to spots over there. So that's pretty neat. There are still things you cannot do, and I get asked that all the time. The most biggest one over here is images and chatbot videos. You cannot put those in right now. It is on their radar, the product group's radar. So we'll see when that happens over there. Next big thing that happened is as of April of this year, the Power Virtual Agents community opened up. So if you've been an early adopter of this and you've got questions over there, go to that community and ask questions and answers over there. In fact, my blogs get posted over there. I sometimes go and show up and answer questions over there. There's a whole bunch of other MVPs and experts which are over there, including the Microsoft Product Group people. They go ahead and ask those questions on that. So a couple of things I wanted to show you just as an excitement is in the early stages of when this thing first rolled out, things were a bit interesting, all right? Because right now, if you see on the after side, that's what I showed you. You see that trigger, which was the Power Virtual Agents, and then the return. That's what it looks right now. But initially, when Power PVA was just coming out and integrating with the Power Automate was just integrating with PVA, the trigger and the response were actually just HTTP requests. Even though it automatically created it for you, you still had to go in and kind of massage that code a little bit. So that was the first iteration of it. Then they went ahead and really cleaned that up. And I'll actually show you, because right over here, you can see what the before was. If you had more than one string or one text coming in from your Power Virtual Agent, you had to open up that JSON body over there, and you had to tweak that code, the properties code over there. But not anymore, right? Because now I can just go ahead and treat that as a normal trigger. I can just hit the plus, add an input, add speech and text and things like that. So they've really, tweaked that over there. All right, so now I got to do the bad thing. I got to talk about licensing. And there's important things that you need to know about licensing, not just from the cost perspective, but how that licensing actually works. So the initial thing which I just want to get out of the way is that, yes, it is going to cost $1,000 for 2,000 sessions per tenant per month. All right, we'll see if this thing changes. But right now, as we stand, this is what the cost is. Here's the very important piece, is that you are using, you're using Power Automate flows over here for your PVA. So with that licensing comes this very important information, is that unlimited flows can be used only applicable for flows triggered from Power Virtual Agents. Remember that trigger that I showed you? As long as those are the triggers, you can have unlimited number of flows because of the licensing piece that you've already used. And then if you're using CDS, then here is your CDS storage capacity over there, all right? So that's important, that you are getting unlimited flows over there. Another important thing is that how long is a session considered as a session? Because say if I had a discussion with the chatbot, I could have started that discussion at 9 in the morning, and I'm still going on and answering questions till 5 in the evening, and that discussion is going on. That could be considered as what session? But then what can happen is what's considered as, a session that has been abandoned or a session that has not been, answered. There's these different topics over here. So kind of focus on that. Is that when all the users' questions are answered, then it can be considered as if considered one session over there. So it could be that the session is completed and how I was able to go ahead and click on those emojis to select that one. That could be considered a session. Or I did get my questions answered and then I just closed the browser. That's considered as a session over there. As you can see over there. And then the bot is unable to answer adequately and the interaction is escalated to a live agent. Now the live agent is another option available. It's currently tied only to the Dynamics 365. It's at an advanced level, so I didn't keep it for this session over there. But if for you, it's important to note is that if the bot now hands that over to a live agent, that is also considered as a session. All right. Now, the important licensing information to consider over here is that all Power Virtual Agents capacities enforced monthly and unused sessions do not carry over month to month. So don't consider this as your cell phone minutes, which can carry over to the next month. This is not how your PVA works. You've got 1,000 chats, 2,000 chats that are available. You used only 150. Well, that remaining 850 are not going to carry over, right? So it starts fresh. Very, very important thing that you need to notice over there. The other final thing I wanted to talk about was how, and we've got 4 more minutes, so I can show you, is that in the chatbot system over here, when we come, there is something called in the analytics. I'll go ahead and close that. There's something called sessions. Now, it's important that you know this because if you've gone ahead and built a chatbot and say you had it on your website, if somebody just went to that page of your website and didn't do anything, then what does that mean? Does that even work? So I kind of want to show you this a great example. Is I go and update it, and the sessions goes ahead and generates this one file. I'm going to download that file, open that up for you. I want to show you something very important that you need to understand what that session is. See this, besides the fact that it's recording the entire transcript, which is fantastic. You've got the full transcript over here, the session ID, the start date, so on, date and time, the full chat session over here. It also goes and tells you what that session outcome is. And that session outcome means it was abandoned, which means there was really, abandoned means somebody was got the questions answered, but then after that, they didn't, graciously close it saying thank you or something. So that is still considered as a paid, chat session over there. There are scenarios though, however, I do want to show you is, let me open that up really quick. There. Yep, that's a good session over here. So I've got an example of a session from actually a production site, and I want to show this information over here. See, so there is resolve, abandon, unengaged. Unengaged is that exact situation that I showed you, where somebody came in just to that page where the bot is, but they didn't do anything. The bot may have even come and said hi there or something like that, but the user did not type in anything or do that. Unengaged is not part of your billing. So resolved, abandoned, escalated, those are part of your billing. But when you see unengaged, that is not part of your billing. And it's important to know that because you are allowed only 2,000 chats a day. It's potential that only 200 or say only 10% of those actually fall under the resolve, abandon, all of these things. But you could have had 2,000 other people or 3,000 other people who just came to your site, or it could be on your Facebook, or it could be anywhere else over there, but they just came over there and nothing happened. So you don't get charged for those, right? It's a very important thing that you need to know, that is that the session outcomes needs to be falling in any of those categories before you're actually charged for that one chat over there. So in closing, what I want to kind of just talk to you about is quickly the ways that you can actually go ahead and give me some feedback. Feedback is very important, at least for me. Don't go and say something like Daniel Christian just sucked. That doesn't help me. Give me something constructive. So Daniel Christian did a great job in explaining, but he should have spent a little bit more time explaining that XYZ. That is good feedback. So give me something like that. In addition, tomorrow I'll be covering on this session as well. It's actually the same time as I started this one. I'm going to be talking about Power Apps and Azure Application Insights to get really some more, logging capabilities. So if you're interested in that, that's my session tomorrow over here. And then, as always, this is my, the YouTube channel that I talked about. In fact, everything that I covered over here in this session over there, I've got 3 videos already out, which will walk you through the PVA over there. Second video walks you through how to use Power Virtual Agents with Power Automate. And then another session of these hidden gems. I released that. It's all available on my YouTube channel. So I think I finished right on the dot in 15 minutes. Wow, I did a fantastic job. Let's see. Does anybody have any questions for me? Okay. I'm going to go through. Is there a DDoS profession for PVA sessions? That is a very good question by Carnegie. And the idea to that is yes. Because remember, there is the way in the backend it all works is using APIs. So you're never actually hitting Azure in the backend. All you're doing is you're just hitting that one API over there, and it works just fine. So yes, there is an API. And everything, like I said, the first 2 examples, it's all anonymous. So I really never went in and authenticated over there. Only when you authenticate, you have to go through the multi-factor authentication. So I get your question. You asked about DDoS over there, but it was able to go ahead and make it secure. So let's see. Let me grab one more example. Adam says, let's say we have a requirement that every chat with the bot needs to saved as some report. Let's say a full conversation. Long story short, if you notice towards the end, I showed you how the sessions information was. It records the entire blog over there. So that blog, records the entire chatbot. So over there, you've got timestamps. You even got how the session ended. And then after that, you can just use a flow, or you can use that information and directly, put that to your SharePoint list over there. So hopefully, Adam, that kind of answers your question on that. I know we're already 2 minutes over the hour, so I will go ahead and end right here. Thank you once again for attending my session. And then remember, I have another session tomorrow. Other than that, thank you for stopping by. Bye.